How big can I get my heart to be?
Thought Media Network proudly presents
How much love can I get flowing out of me?
The Real Talk Sisters. Deep, unfiltered, soulful conversations with Reverend Dr. Pjae Stanley, Reverend Kim Andrews, and Reverend Melinda Wood Allen.
How big can I get my heart to be?
Join us for Real Talk on Real Issues. Tuesdays, 2 p.m. Central, 1 o'clock Mountain. And now, let's join the Real Talk Sisters.
How big can I get my heart to be?
All right. Everybody's here.
Everybody's here, which is no small feat considering the storms that have been happening where we all live.
Yeah. All right. So
one of the effects of the storm that you may be hearing from me is that there's a leaf blower outside that keeps going back and forth outside my window. So if you hear, well, there he is again. Okay, forgive me. I'm Reverend Melinda Wood Allen, and I'm so glad to be here today with the Real Talk Sisters for some real talk. I love you guys.
absolutely love you as well. And I'm Reverend Dr. Pjae Stanley, and I'm the Senior Minister, Spiritual Leader of Harmony Spiritual Center in Fort Worth. And it is so good to be here with you ladies today. Thank you.
And I'm Kim Andrews, Spiritual Leader at Unity Spiritual Center, Saxe, and sitting in my car, and so glad I could still be here in some shape or form. Yes.
Absolutely. We are so glad to have you. Yeah, absolutely.
Sitting in your car because the power's out in your house. So we'll
Yes.
some prayers for you.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Yeah. You learn how to just roll with it, which is what we're talking about today.
Exactly. Just live. Just live it. So exactly. So we'll get into more of that.
That unity
Mel, did you have
principle number 5.
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
It's not enough to know the truth. We must live the truth.
Yes, through thoughts, words, and actions. We do our best by living the truth we know. So how does that look? How does living the truth look? What does it look like? How do we do that? We're talking about that today.
Yeah. Putting your money where your mouth is.
Yes, put your money where your mouth is. And today it's looking like, power's off. Okay, we're safe. We're sound. The house hasn't been breached. And there's no flooding in my house. We're all safe and healthy. And heck, we lived for many years without computers. And even though I did sit down at one point and tap my mouse, and I thought, what am I doing? And I can't tell you how many times I walk into a room and flip on a light switch because it's just habit.
I know.
Just what you
Exactly.
do.
I'll carry a candle into a dark room, and so I can see the light switch to flip it on. It's so funny how we do that.
Which is probably a nice segue into the topic, because it is.
It just is.
As we affirm things, as we live things, and we know that there's a presence greater than anything else in this world, stuff does happen. And then how do you live the truth you say you know, and the things you say you believe, and how do you live from that? So that
exactly
means
correct.
I'm not thrown off because the power's off. It might get warm later on. I grew up in a house without air conditioning. It's all good.
About that.
I can still get some things done. You just do it without power. We brought home lunch. Usually I like to warm it up. It was lukewarm. I lived. I'm still here. And all is well.
Exactly. And so
all is well.
All is well. And so I was thinking about, I know you, Melinda, you have a quote that you want to share with us, and I want to share this quote from Epictetus as well that I think
I'm gonna just put it in the chat right now.
Oh, you guys put it in the chat. Great.
It's a quote from Gandhi. It's one of my favorite ones. He says, "Happiness is when what you think, what you say, and what you do are in harmony."
Exactly.
What I like to say is, when they're not in harmony, that's hell. The gap between what you believe and how you live is hell in your life.
Exactly.
And the way to have heaven in your life, happiness, truly bringing heaven to earth, is making sure that what you believe comes down into your life, goes through what you're actually doing. You know, and one way to, what happens is that we fall back into habit. We were talking about flipping a light switch. You know, even though we know the power's out, we do things out of habit. And so it takes a long time, in my experience, an epiphany into a new understanding is very nice. It feels good at the moment, but it doesn't do anything until you put it into practice.
Exactly.
Yes.
So
exactly correct.
It can take a long time. It can take a lot of practice for that way of thinking to become habit, rather than the way of thinking that you grew up with and that so many people around you are holding on to. And you know, it's, you get habituated to a certain way of thinking and a certain way of living, that even if you believe something different, it can take a while to habituate yourself to doing it differently. And doing it differently, that's where the rubber meets the road. I'm using a lot of cliches today, but doing it differently is how life changes, is how things get better, is how we transform, by doing it differently, not just by learning something different, but by actually doing it.
It's always about the action and the activity. There's a quote by Epictetus, and I'm not sure if I say his name right. I just call him Epictetus, but one of the Stoics, and he said, "Do not seek to have events happen as you wish, but be grateful to them to happen as they do, and all will be well." And I was just talking with Melinda and Kim before the show started, and I had a friend who would always say, "Well, you know, it is what it is." And I would say, "Yeah, what does that mean? What do you?" But now it makes such perfect sense, and just to be able to say and mean, it is what it is, and so we don't worry about it or try to make it something different. That's, you know, that's part of I live the what is now, and not try to make it something else. Wanted to wishing it to be more or less or any number of things.
Rail against it for being other.
Yes, yes, rail against it. That's a good way to say it. Yeah,
That's we create that tension when we go, okay, here's
we
what it is.
absolutely do.
Where do I go from here?
Right. Exactly.
I had a
And
little
so,
Yorkshire Terrier who went completely blind while and he was the cutest thing. He adapted like this. I mean, it just, I would take him outside and I would set him on the edge of the patio. I couldn't take him on walks anymore, but I'd set him on the edge of the patio where he could feel the yard and the patio. So he kind of knew where he was. I always put him in the same place. He'd run out in the middle of the yard and start running circles and getting larger and larger circles so he could really get some exercise. And then he'd come back to that same edge of the patio and wait for me to take him back in.
beautiful.
Talking to the vet about, you know, what, think about if a person goes blind, you know,
Right.
late in life,
The railing,
to go through. And she said, I think it's because animals just go, here's what is. They just respond to what is. They don't spend any time going, oh, I've got blind. What's going to happen to me now? You know, we put so much energy to wishing things were different than they are. Whereas this little dog just went, okay, today I can't see. What other senses do I have? What do I got to work with here? And he just went to work with it.
Exactly.
He was, in many ways, you know, quite a little teacher.
Absolutely.
As they often are, right? As they often are.
Yeah. I think one of the, I just shared with the ladies here just a moment ago that I had to lovingly release my beautiful Spike. He was a puggle this past Sunday. And one of the things that made it so hard was, number one, because you don't want to release him. He's the love, and he's been in our family for 4 generations. But also because he was doing that, and he was just adapting. He was just doing what he could do, and I just said, "Oh, he's okay," you know, because he's all right. But he wasn't okay, and you know, and part of it was him adapting, and me wanting to keep him around longer, not able to go with what was. It is what it is, just wanting it to be something different. And so finally, I just thought, well, you know, this poor baby is telling me in so many ways, it's time for me to go, and I have to keep adapting, but I'm not really clear I want to do all that. So you know, it was for me to love him and to lovingly release him. But you know, it's difficult. It's difficult to know when you've crossed that line, and when you're saying that, you know, because we have power of choice and power in our thinking. And if I could just think it up a different way, or pray on it, you know, differently or whatever. Again, that's for me in this particular situation. That's all about changing what is, and rather than living with what is. This is what it is. It's not going to change. It's not going to get any better. In fact, it's going to get worse. So do that. Do come to that conclusion sooner. Come to that conclusion sooner. So that was a lesson for me this week. It really was. Yeah.
Yeah.
In my peace practice, I often talk about that. If you can make peace with what is right now,
Man.
then it can actually, no matter how heinous you think the present is, if you can make your peace with it and find a spot of understanding or release in that,
Yes. Yes.
then you can be peaceful in the most difficult of situations. Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's certainly part of what we want to do when we are with people going through whatever transitions, whether it's health or moving from one phase in life to the other, or moving from relationships or whatever they are. We tend to want to, hang on to what was, because if this is what I'm comfortable with, what I'm used to, and can't we just get back to that? No, no, because life moves on. You cannot go backwards as much as you think you want to. And the fact is that every time I've tried to keep something where I tried to keep, which is, ridiculous, but tried to keep it where it was, when I finally let go and came to where I was supposed to be, it was much more beautiful. It was exactly what was supposed to happen. And what I didn't know I wanted to happen, that I was blocking other good coming in for myself and others. And there's always a lesson there. And I don't know how many times I have to learn that before I let go quicker. But I don't know. I'm just talking about the experience of it and what it is for me.
We talked about prayer in the last couple of weeks, and about aligning our will. And for me, prayer is not about asking for what I want. Prayer is about asking for my abilities to meet the tasks before me, rather than changing the tasks so that they fit my abilities. Praying for me to be able to come to the task with what is needed. Or to meet the event with what is needed, rather than spending my energy trying to change events. And I know that's very different from how some people pray, but I have found much more peace in praying to be equal to what is before me, rather than praying that what's before me to change.
Exactly.
Because many times what's before you cannot change. It just is. It may be rolling towards getting worse, depending on what you're going through. Exactly. Like sitting with someone who's transitioning.
Right. Yes.
That may not change, and it might get worse. Or they might continue to devolve and transition, which is not worse. It may be what is supposed to happen, and that may be their path.
Exactly.
But sometimes we can't change what is there. And if we can take a breath, and maybe there's time for prayer, and like we always talk about, release whatever emotion is there and let yourself get clear. And then you can ask that question Pjae always likes to use: what's mine to do now?
What's mine to do?
What's mine to do? And it may be just sit with what is.
Exactly. Then that's it. Just sit with what is. You don't have to do anything. Just be and sit.
Just be.
Quietly. Just be,
and don't rail against it. But that's sometimes going against human nature. And and if we're used to railing against things, that's one of our patterns, and that's will come up again in another time that you hit a brick wall. So I know I had to get to where I changed that pattern and that automatic response to life, and I stopped railing against things, because I realized I was exhausting myself fighting something that wasn't going to shift, or it wasn't mine to shift.
Wasn't
that part.
Wasn't mine.
Yes.
And then I just make my peace with it, take a deep breath. Okay, what is mine? And it may not be dealing with the situation.
Exactly.
Maybe it's just to be still, calm down, take a breath, affirm what I believe in life, about life and love and God, and go from there.
Right. Exactly.
There's a tool in the 12-step program that I was taught and that I use a lot, and it's the 3 A's: awareness, acceptance, and action. Nice. In that order. And when I became aware of this tool, what I realized, what I had done my whole life is I could be in denial for forever. Just don't think about it. Just don't, no, it's
Don't
not.
look at it. Just it's not there. If you do that, it'll go away.
The moment I have the awareness, it's like, just do something. I got to do something about it. This is not right. And something's got to be done. And skipping that step of acceptance in between, which went, yes, I'm aware of this. What is it really? What's it here for? Is it mine? Whose business is it? My business, your business, or God's business? It's got three different kinds of business going on. And nothing I can do about God's business or your business. I can only do something about my business. So if I want to jump into action when it's not my business to take action on, then I'm just going to create chaos.
Correct.
But if I wait until I have some acceptance and I know, okay, there is an action that I can take. This part of it even is my business. Here's what I can do about it. And sometimes what I can do about it is calm down and love somebody, even though they're not doing what I want them to do. But realize, get clear in my head about, is this a deal breaker for me or is it not? If it's not a deal breaker, then why am I still letting my head yammer away at me? I can just go, okay, here's what it is. I accept this. This is what I choose. And it's okay for me to choose that.
That part right there. Yeah.
And so maybe what's mine to do could be forgiving myself or others. Perhaps it needs to sit down and figure out, okay, how have I contributed to this situation? If it is something like that, and doing my work around that, whatever that might look like, and then forgive myself. And often after that process, then I can really come to peace in the now.
Yes. And that's part of the acceptance step. Is like, this is really what's happening. So I can beat myself up, or I can go, hey, wait a minute. This is what is, and it's okay.
Exactly.
That's self-forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Things don't happen in a vacuum. And sometimes we do have a part that we played.
Yes.
Even if it was just enabling, not speaking up, not teaching people how to treat us.
Accepting the unacceptable, not putting boundaries. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all of that and more.
One of the things is we're talking about, what is mine to do, and going through all those things. Is it mine? Is it God's? Is it theirs? Whose is it? And we talk a lot about knowing thyself. That's such a big deal, to know who you are, what you value, and so in the thing, when I'm looking at I live and putting the truths into practice, for me it's about, if I know, and this is a big thing for us, I think, in New Thought, is being aware that all of us are individualized expressions of the one love, which means that everyone is capable of living the life they want to live, figuring out their own issues, unless they ask us to step in. And so just coming to this understanding, uh, accepting life as it is, meaning that everybody has the ability to live the life they want to live. If they're not living the life they want to live, and they want something else, and they think you can help, see all this stuff, then they can just say, hey, Pjae, I kind of like what you're doing there. Melinda, I like what you're doing there. Can you share that with me? And until they do that, they're good. I feel like they're good, and they don't really need Pjae to step in and tell them all about it. So that's part of the I live thing, is living the truth of who I know we are all, we all are, who we all are, what's available to us and through us, through the mind of God in us. So that to me is another part of the I live thing.
Yeah.
I live the truth.
That if this is true for me, that I have this power, this energy, then it's true for everyone else.
Correct.
They don't.
Correct.
God doesn't have grandchildren. He doesn't have to go through me in order to help you. You can go through it. You got to direct. Yeah.
Exactly correct. Exactly correct. So
it's a good thing for me to remember during the years, especially my daughter's teenage years, when I worried about her a lot. I was just, wait a minute. She has her own direct link to higher power. She has God in her. She doesn't have to get it through me or from me. She's got her own. And it's such a comforting thing, and it changes my behavior toward my loved ones when I recognize that and and honor and respect that, because really to do otherwise is disrespectful.
It really is. And it really is what we want. We say we want is actually what we want. It's back to what you two were talking about earlier about the habit of, the habit of being the mom, particularly when it comes to our children, being the mom. Because, we do have to, when they're little, we do have to kind of come in and say, baby, this is probably a better way to go this way than that way. Watch when you go across the street. All those safety rules and issues. And at some point, we have to realize, all right, they know enough about that. Now this is about them being their creative self. And now we keep interfering or interjecting, then we're putting their lives on hold. We're trying to live through them or whatever it may be. And so these are all things that we get to remind ourselves of. Being with wonderful people like yourselves, I get to be I can be reminded of my humanity and when I'm not showing up as God or allowing someone else to show up as God. So this is, again, for me, part of the I Live. I think we're about coming up on a break time for us. And we can go ahead and do that, and we'll come on back to this great conversation.
All right, awesome.
Hey. All right.
Here we are back again.
Yes.
So
Going through the 5 unity principles, and we are on I Live today.
Yeah,
Are you going to talk about 5?
I was just going to say principle 5 is about incorporating principles 1 through 4, remembering, as you were just saying, that everyone has their direct line to God. God,
Yes.
There's one presence and one power. Living that means not acting as if there isn't, not acting as if other people are here to foil or thwart our perfectly laid plans. It's remembering that we are inherently good because God is in us, and is remembering that others are as well, and responding to them from that place.
Exactly.
And as we create our experiences by what we think, by what we choose, we understand also that other people are creating their experiences by what they choose. And then and then putting prayer into action, not wishful thinking, but actual well thought out. Here's how I want to put principle to work in my life. First, I do it in mind, and when I do it in mind, then I carry it into action. So principle 5 is like the culmination of all the other principles.
So, yeah. Principle 1, God is the beginning. That's the beginning thing you need to know. God is, and the end being that I live. As we go through all 5, it's a wonderful way to encapsulate the whole thing. Exactly.
And some days it is a stretch to figure out, how do I live from that, everything that we said we believed, and then to really incorporate that into our lives, sometimes long term. So, and I think that especially comes up if there's something we want to manifest, something that we are working on in our lives. We want to become more abundant. Maybe we want to be more healthy. I've loved Myrtle Fillmore's book, Healing Letters. And she talks about very candidly and openly, and sometimes quite forcefully, about what this I Live could look like. And especially if you're affirming something like vibrant health. And so she says that within your power, do what you can that demonstrates vibrant health in your life. And it may be like, if you're flat on your back, maybe that looks like doing 3 or 4 arm exercises, and then the next day doing 6 or 7. but do something that is starting to help you live that very thing now, even if it's a very small step.
Correct. I love it. That's exactly it. That's exactly it. So yeah, don't need to add to that. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah,
I
Mark
remember
said
we were,
announcement.
yes, I remember when we were wanted to do some work on the house, and there quite a few projects we had, and we went through a process of getting a HELOC, home equity loan, something. Now it just went out of my mind.
That's okay.
But I remember walking around the house. One of the things we wanted to do was get new siding or have it painted. And so we went through that whole process. And as things were going, we were writing contracts. I remember them saying, okay, and when do you want to put the money down? And I would just give them a date. And then every single day I would come out, I would look out my window and say, oh my gosh, how beautiful my house looked with the new paint and everything else. And I just love it. It's glorious. And I would be thankful for it in that moment and say, thank you for all of this just coming to fruition. I'm so enjoying this manifestation. And it happened just like it did. I was able to write the checks exactly when I said I would. The house got painting. I had that same glorious feeling when I looked out the window. And so I never wavered,
Right.
never wavered. And I had that question asked many times. Okay, do you really want to do that? Sure, I'll have the deposit on this date. And that and the day it happened, and this was the way people took issue with the secret, that maybe it gave people false hope, and that they would still, that it would be all about the outer signs. It would be all about the getting the stuff. And I can tell you, for every single thing that I manifested, it was no longer about the stuff. It was about how me feeling my connection with the divine and
Exactly
knowing
correct.
that the promise of fulfillment, if we are claim something and we are thankful for it and we stay in faith, then it shall happen.
That's exactly. Exactly. And it's just so interesting to me how we can say that the universe is abundant and that I am an individualized expression of the one, meaning that all abundance, all power, everything flows to me is mine. Um, and yet we want to say, well, it can't be about the getting of things. Yeah, actually, it can be. That's not what it's all about. But why isn't it part of it? Why not? Because the universe is abundant, and we don't have to. You whatever you see for yourself. I think what you just were talking about, Kim, seeing your house, seeing the sidewalk, the wall up, writing the check, saying, giving a definite date. I think this is all about how you do manifest things by seeing the vision, living from that energetic space where the vision is. Because if you already had that energetic space, if you're already there, you would have it already. So part of it is saying how to move forward, claiming where you want to move forward, seeing that vision of it, seeing it all the time. And so when you do that, you are in that energetic space of where that vision and that future is, and you pull it into reality. That's what we say we can do. And yet when we do it, then we get a little pushback about, oh, it can't just be about about manifesting. It's not just about that, but it is a part of it. We're not taking anything away from what we're saying is possible through the mind of God in us. So this whole separation of us, it can only be the energy, it can only be about healing, it can only be about doing good stuff. It can't only be about anything. It's about all of it.
All of it.
All of
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Or there are limits that we put on. I've
That's
decided it's a limit, and if I've decided it's a limit, then it is.
Yes, then it is. Then it is. Then it is.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it can be about the stuff if that's what you want.
If that's where you're heading.
But there were, I know
that
that each and every time when I manifested something, I was usually in tears from the joy of it, not about the stuff, but about this power that we've been given to call into our lives what we want. And that issue did not involve another person. So I can't do that with someone else and say, God, I want to manifest my husband being nicer or bringing me flowers more often. It's not about that.
It's not.
It was about me and myself and my level of consciousness about bringing something in. And so I think people need to be careful when if they're trying to change a situation, but it's right now it's about them trying to change someone else.
Yeah.
Correct.
But it's interesting that you brought that up, because no, you can't make your husband bring you flowers more often. However, if you put yourself in the mind space that you want to be appreciative and grateful for what your spouse does, then you may notice 12 other things that your spouse does that you weren't grateful for, that were as good or better than flowers.
Correct.
And is it because he suddenly starts doing these things,
No.
or is it because you notice them? Who knows?
Yes.
But you're in the mind space of appreciation. And when you're in the mind space of appreciation, then the blessings just pour. They do.
Correct. And back to what you're saying, Kim, and I think you're saying the same thing, Melinda. It's about this relationship that we develop with the spirit within us. And we're all living with paradigms and ways in which we think life is supposed to be, coming from childhood and old relationships and old things to know. And those things are there. So when we start to do something different, those old ones, start coming up, and you guys say, no, that's not my truth. That is not the truth at all. And releasing some of those ideas of what we can or can't. We can have it all. It's the only limitation is what you're willing to believe you deserve, what you're willing to believe is yours, and it's all available. It's all available. So it isn't about other people. It's not about changing other people. As you just said, I love that about saying to make me more. Let me see more of what is already here that my husband is doing, or whatever it is, the situation. Let me see with clearer eyes. Because I'm looking at a particular thing to happen. Well, but what that thing represents, maybe it's happening in so many other ways already. I love that idea, because that is absolutely true. That's absolutely true. Yeah. So.
Yeah, if we can change our mindset, it really does we live with new eyes.
We do. I mean, how many times have you thought about? I can't. It's ridiculous. How many times it's come to me that, oh, I'm ready to go. To learn this, and I need to get this book, and I already have it. Been having it sitting on my shelf. But, I mean, been having it.
Yeah.
Where'd this come from? Who bought this?
Was I supposed to read that?
What the heck? Who put that there? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I love that.
When I wanted to manifest a committed relationship, I remember, I did sit down and really think about what it is that I wanted in a relationship, and what this man to represent, and am I bringing that same thing forth into the world? Am I expressing that? Am I living that now?
Yeah.
And then attracting the right mate into my life. And it was just like you said with the book. When I finally got to that place in consciousness, I turned around, and here I is, my coworker Quentin, who he and I were great friends. I looked at him and I went, oh, he's there. So he'd been circulating in my world this whole time for 4 years.
Yeah.
4 years.
Exactly.
But first of all, I had to get myself ready for that.
This is the thing.
And then once I was ready, my eyes opened, and I said, there's the guy right there.
Yeah.
Yes. Our relationship is a testament to that tortoise and the hare.
And then he went, finally, duh.
Slow and steady runs the race. I tease him about that all the time. Slow and steady, baby. Slow and steady. Because, he wasn't the fancy one. He wasn't the one to, all the stuff people think they want is, can he take me to the right places? Does he know the right people? Are we the power couple? Whatever it is. You wear the right clothes. Can you say the right things? And really it was about someone who was just grounded and peaceful and joyful in his life and comfortable in his own skin. And a lot of times that's very, very quiet. So the same things that attracted me to other people were not the same things that were what I treasure the most in this relationship.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so it wasn't until I got myself together in consciousness and then affirmed and prayed about that, including my relationship with his family and his relationship with mine.
Yeah.
that thing, all of a sudden my eyes were opened, and it has been well, 22 years now, peaceful and joyful. So,
Yeah,
I knew I
it is
didn't want something with drama, but I had to live that and make sure I had no drama in my
that
life.
part.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, then that's it. That just the whole be careful what you pray for because you're going to get it, and but you're going but and I don't it sounds like a warning like don't be praying for stuff, but it's not. It's about that when you get there, when you get what you were praying for, you realize you had it all along. You were always that you were always that. It was always available.
Yes.
You hadn't what's the word, because you were just saying you hadn't actually focused on it and said, oh, there it is. This is the clarity in your own mind of what you're looking for, getting that clarity. And I remember telling you guys when I came back from the conference a couple of weeks ago in Dallas, and this young black girl, she just said, what funny girl and so wonderful, and she said to me, PJ, you don't have a man in your life, do you? And I said, no. And she said, no, because it is all over you. You're saying, no, get away, stop, whatever. And so, since she said that, I've let go of that. She's absolutely correct, because I'm so fearful. I'm so fearful of being in a relationship and not holding to who I am, because that's what happened in the last relationship. So I'm very fearful of that. But when she said that, I thought, no, you know who you are now. You will hang on to that. That's not going to happen. And I'm starting to see around me just different things, and my reaction. So I thought, oh, so my reaction to gentlemen have been saying things to me. Oh, hey, you look like that. I love those glasses. And I just, oh, hey, yeah, and keep going. But since then, I said, oh, thank you, and then I stopped and actually talk, and we have not that that's going anywhere, but my whole relationship or how
Yes.
I've been doing has changed since she mentioned that, and I thought, she's right. I do. I don't want that anymore. I do want to be open to that, and I'm changing how I'm reacting. It's amazing. It is absolutely amazing when you finally wake up your own eyes to what it is you want, get some clarity about it, and then let that come in. That's all what you're doing is letting it come in. It's there, just letting it in, letting it in. Yeah, yeah. So cool.
I know even with something like abundance, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, but you want to get beyond that, sometimes it's about, so how do I live that if you don't have the money in the bank now? And
Right.
sometimes I know when I started struggle with things like that years ago, I might tip $1 more. I might change. I may not eat out as much, but if I did, then I would go to some place that was a little nicer than I did before.
Yes.
I remember going through my closet and I think we talked about this before. I go through my closet and look at things that I was wearing just because they were falling. Oh, I can sleep in that shirt now. Why give it away? And then I figured, so why would I? Because if I were living at a different financial level, I wouldn't wear that.
Right.
So
Right.
I just gave it away. Actually, I probably used it as a rag after that or something like that.
But get it out of the
But I didn't
closet.
need it
Yeah.
anymore. I figured, no, I'm not
Right.
going to wear that because that's not
Right.
who I am. And that's
That's
just
not.
a small thing, but it was amazing
That's a
what it
big
did
thing.
for my mindset
It's a big
and
thing.
for my consciousness. It
Correct.
And
took me to a different level.
someone
Exactly.
else might not need to take the same steps as you. It depends
Yeah.
upon what it means to them. Because in total abundance, I'm going to still sleep in the raggedy shirt and love it. And love it. But yeah, that may be a good topic for our next show, is to talk about abundance, and because it's a scary thing for people.
Yeah.
It's either like, this is too materialist, or no, this doesn't work. And there's lots of fears in both directions.
In both directions. And the fact is, we live in a material world. We have to have material things. What are you talking about? We live in a physical, material world.
Yeah.
There are things that we want. There's no, and Spirit says that, just all of this is available to you. Everything is available to you. What you're not getting is what you won't allow. What you won't allow. And you begin to think about that. What is it that I'm blocking, that I'm not allowing, from old tapes or old thoughts or whatever? Abundance of God is all things on this planet. All things
Yeah.
in the universe. That's what abundance is, whatever that is. So to say, well, I can have that, but I can't have that, then, and there's nothing wrong with that. You can think what you want, but if there's a challenge for you in this abundance thing, so I think it's a great idea. Kim, let's talk about that next time. I wrote it down here. Then
I
all
think
you got
one
to
of
do
the
is go back to your thinking.
yeah, I think one of the easiest things to do with cost nothing is to be happy for others and their success.
Exactly.
Woo!
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Exactly.
Because that, by not being happy for others' joy, for others' success, for others' abundance, is an admission that you believe in lack, that you
that part right there, that there's not enough.
less for you. And
Correct.
so really practicing, that's a huge way to put
That
it
is
in
great.
practice. Practicing joy for other people's good fortune is a great way to get yourself into abundance consciousness.
Yes.
That is, you're saying to the universe, big and loud, with your emotions, big and loud, that there's enough. There's more than enough. There's enough for all of us.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a huge statement to make.
It is.
And that's success in financial matters, success in love, success in friendship and other relationships, success in health and well-being. So it's not just about money, it's about anything in this world, in this opulent universe that we live in, is being happy for others. Absolutely.
Exactly. Just so happy for others.
Even those that you don't particularly care for. So
Yeah, it's okay. It's like I don't need to care for you to be happy for you.
that's right. Yeah.
All right. Happy for you. We're gonna go ahead.
It's about break time, so we'll take another break and we'll be back in just a couple minutes.
Thank you all so much for being here. All right.
And we're back. And we're back. One of the things that was coming up for me as we were talking about this is because this stuff is it's subtle. It's we can try to use it in really gross ways, but it's really subtle as well. And when we talk about healing and bringing healing into our lives, one of the things I've really come to understand is that a healing and a cure are not always the same thing.
They're not the same. No, they're not the same. Not necessarily.
Be healed, and sometimes your healing will happen in the midst of your disease.
Yeah, I agree.
That's a hard thing to say yes to, because we want what we want when we want it. But when our mindset really changes, when what we want is healing, when what we really want, I want healing more than I want to be cured. I want to be healed. When we really want healing and we put our energy and our effort toward that, then I believe that's always available for us.
Yeah. And I want to say that that saying that healing is not always about, what was it? How did you put it? Because I really like what you said.
Cure is not the same as a healing.
Thank you. Yeah. So I want to also say that just because we're talking about healing is not necessarily a cure, I don't want us to feel like we're not saying that we can't be cured. That's not what we're saying.
No.
But that's not what we're saying at all. But because and certainly Emily Katie, this is one of her things, and obviously I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank. But anyway, she was all Fillmore. She was all about healing. That's how that's how she came to it. And some of the first New Thought people were all about how to heal yourself and healing others and things like that. But or a cure. They're actually talking about a cure more than they were talking about healing. They're curing things. But healing to me is about being at peace with who and what you are, what is true, what is like. And this is about the topic we're talking about now, about I'm living this truth. And healing is knowing this truth is real. Whether I'm going to be cured of a disease that this body has doesn't have anything to do with the fact that I am healed. Because I know the truth of myself. I know the truth of what's going on here, and this is mine to do right now for whatever reason, and to be with God in this place, in this thing, in this whatever disease I'm going through. God is with me. That's to me the healing part, knowing my connection at all times.
That God is with
that.
me. God is bigger
All the time.
than all
Yes.
of this.
Anything
God
that
is
I'm going through. God, exactly. God,
Yeah,
exactly.
they
So that's
say cure is about the body, healing's about consciousness.
there,
yes.
okay. There you go.
And so even though the body may die, there can still be a healing
Exactly.
in consciousness. So
Exactly.
it's different, and there can be peace, there can be deep healing, there can be deep understanding, and
Yes.
it's far different than what may be happening to the body.
Correct.
But they
Doesn't mean you
Correct.
can't have both,
Yes.
but
Doesn't mean that.
yeah.
Just want to say
sometimes
that. Doesn't mean that.
sometimes it's one.
Mhm.
But I really learned this when I walked through a cancer diagnosis with a close friend years ago. And I think I shared a couple of weeks ago, having lost a close friend
Yes.
to a small plane accident, and how devastating that was, and how for a long time I just couldn't even, I could only focus on God as love. The concept of love I could absolutely believe in, but I was having a hard time, struggling daily with, okay, spirit, if you're letting this stuff happen, then, even though I knew that it was this mind game that I was playing, but the pain was so real. And yet, in less than a year later, I'm walking this journey with this friend, being one of her main caregivers as she reached the end of her life. And she was highly spiritual. And at the beginning of the journey, she was sure she was going to get a cure. And she died from her disease. And yet, it was clear to me, I could so completely and fully see the hand of God all over her, all through it, all through the friendships, the people gathered around her, those of us who were caring for her. The love was just, it was tangible. It was tangible. And there was no one in those last weeks and days with her who didn't feel a transformational love happening. And yes, we're all devastated when she died from her disease, but there was no question in my mind that she was healed, and that healing was mine as well.
Yeah.
And other people's too.
Yeah.
So I don't think we always get what we want. Until we align what we want with what Spirit's really here to give us.
Yes. Exactly. And I think that, the privilege of sitting with someone who is going through something, and you don't quite know, what it's going to come out, or how it's going to end up. But it's such a highly spiritual practice of being with someone on this walk, so that and the peace that comes over everyone that is with them, if they're with them taking that walk, it's an amazing experience. And I don't look forward to the passing of this body. It's going to happen. We all know this. We could be in denial all we want to, but it's going to happen. And I know that I will. There's no hope to it. I know that this practice that we do now, this living this spiritual life, this knowing who God is, that no matter where my body's at, God is with me always. Not going to be, is always, in fact, with me in the room, with everyone that is around me, with everyone. And so just knowing that is the healing part, is the love part, is the part we get to do with one another. And I honor that. I love that. Not that I want to call it in, but when it's here, it's here.
Yeah.
And we get to sit with it. Not run from it. Sit with it. Be with it. So it's a beautiful thing. It's just is.
Charles Fillmore actually believed that he wasn't going to die, that he could overcome the death of the body. And I think he believed that right up until the moment that his body died.
Sure.
But I believe that we are spirit, and that this body is meant to be temporary, that it's meant to be a vessel that we use for our spirit to learn things that our spirit is longing to learn. And that we can't do it wrong because of that. There's no way.
I like that part. You can't do it wrong.
Yeah.
Because being in this body is how we experience the life. We can't experience it without being in this body. And so the experience of this life and what we go through, what happens, or how we come to understand things is the spiritual growth.
The body provides us with tension and contrast.
Okay.
And we don't learn very well without some tension and contrast. We don't know we don't know a yes until we've known a no. You know what I mean?
I do, like the valleys and the mountains. I mean, you have to have one and the other. You have to have the yin yang, for sure. Absolutely.
So, how are you living your truth today?
Yeah. Well, you know, as I shared with you guys when we came on the call, I had to lovingly release my beautiful puzzle on Spike, who's been in the family for 17 years, and it was one of those things where you know you're with someone who is making their transition, and the loving thing to do is to allow them to go. To allow them to go. They're telling you that they need to go, and to allow them to go. The selfish thing, that the human part, is that you want a little bit more time. A little bit more time. So for me, this week it has been knowing that Spike isn't. I think all animals. I think all of our dogs are angels. They're angels here, and he was an angel who flew down here with and was with us for the longest time. And I've learned so much from him. And this ability to say, I get it. It's your time to go, and I'm going to love you through to your transition. I had to come to that because I came to the fact that I was being selfish, trying to keep him here with me, and that wasn't love. That wasn't the love he gave me, and I needed to give him the same love that he'd been giving me all these years. So that's what we did. So that's what I've lived through this week. Was that?
I know that Spike knew it and felt it.
Yeah.
No question. No question. Sweet boy. Yeah, I think one of the ways I'm living it right now is, you know, I'm going through this walk with my husband's health journey.
Absolutely.
And I won't at all pretend that I have not spent energy going, I want it to be different, and it needs to be different, and we need to make it different now. But I haven't given up by any means. But at this point, I'm living in calmness. We will know what is ours to know when it's time for us.
When it's time to know it. Yes.
We are taking steps. We are making the phone calls. We are going to the appointments. We are listening to spirit. We are praying. We are meditating. We are moving our bodies.
Beautiful.
We're actively engaged in health while we calmly seek answers for what this means long term. And I'll speak for myself, as I quit fighting what is, because I want it to be something different, I'm available for the gifts in what is.
That part. When you stop railing, you're available.
Yeah.
For what's here. Yeah. I love that.
And in many ways, we're having a really sweet time.
I know you are.
He's home all the time. I'm usually here with him, and it's a sweet time.
Yes.
So
it really is.
Not knowing what's next, knowing what my druthers are, but also knowing that I absolutely trust God. I absolutely trust God.
You don't want to miss a moment of this time railing about something else.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And I get that. I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm living it in this way. So we have decided we're selling our house and we're moving to another one. We've actually landed on the house that we want, but it's contingent upon us selling the one we're in, which isn't quite it'll be in the market in another week. So we don't have a contract on it, but I've printed out the MLS, the picture with all the details, and it's on our refrigerator. There's actually one in my office and everything, and it says Kim and Quentin's house on it with an arrow towards the house. And we're packing. We're preparing to move because we figured, you know, if this one doesn't work out, somebody snags it before, we're moving somewhere. So we're in the
Disintegrator.
midst of decluttering and packing and preparing the house to show. And we know that one will be available when it's perfect for it to be available. And it'll be one that we love. So in the meantime, we're moving forward with moving because we know that's going to happen.
That's happening. That's happening. You're standing in truth.
Standing in that truth. And so it's been, as packing and moving, as you know, Melinda's just done it.
You're still doing it.
It's extra work. It's not like I wasn't already busy. It's not like I didn't already have a full plate. And so that's another way that I'm living. I am affirming that I have plenty of time and plenty of energy for everything that has to happen all along. Even after I get in that house, I still have plenty of time. And I affirm that every single day. And I have to reorder priorities. That's what I do. If I have to stay up a little bit later, but then take it a little easier the next day because I've spent a lot of energy, I do that too. And I'm practicing being grateful for all of it along the way.
Yes.
So you got to be ready for this. And it took some time to think about, how do I live this? I sat in prayer. I had some meditation about that. What are some things I can do now to prepare and to signal to the universe that I'm ready? And this is a yes, and I have my arms open wide.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. Asking the universe, what do you need to know? What do you need from me? How do I signal to you that I'm ready to go? What needs to happen here? And I think sometimes we get into this concern about whether I'm doing stuff right. Am I doing stuff? Is this the right way? Am I hanging on too much? And everything that we concern ourselves with, we can just go to the spirit and go, what do you need? What do you need from me? How can I make it clear? What do I need to do? So
send a clear signal. Yes, absolutely.
Send a clear signal. And so this is how you live it. This is how you live it, in constant communication with the spirit in you. Constant communication. I mean, just
and realize that every action is communication.
Everything is a communication. Everything becomes action. So it's just this is a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing and a beautiful time.
So we got about 3 minutes left. I think our producer is going to be wanting to wind this thing down. We've done a good job.
We are doing well. We actually started winding down at 10 minutes of.
We did.
I just want to give a little shout out about in terms of what we're going to do next week. I think we talked about talking about abundance and just allowing abundance in. Where we're going to title it, but I think I just want to give you guys a heads up of what's coming next week. We're going to talk about abundance and how we let the audience that's listening is how we allow that in. What are the things that happen within us that actually stops it from coming in? What are we, how are we being or doing or whatever that actually stops that abundance from coming in? What are the paradigms that we have that say, you can't have too much? And what does that mean? What is too much? Will spirit ever say that? It's too much, girl. You can't have that. It's too much. Who's saying that? So there's a lot of things I think we're going to be talking about next week. It's a wonderful topic, and I love that topic. I'm still working on that for myself. So.
Maybe that's step one, allowing it, right?
Allowing. Yes. Step one. Yeah, let's get some steps. I like steps.
So everybody can find us on realtalksisters.com. If you need to email us, it's realtalksisters@gmail.com. And we are so happy to be here and so glad you all joined us and we're part of the conversation. Mm-hmm. And I love my two sisters here. You are a huge blessing to my life. And I'm so glad we do this together. Absolutely.
Absolutely. I love this time. Thank you guys. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
What is that comment? Oh, here we go.